Hi guys, welcome back to 4th grade social studies. So, today we are going to first backtrack just for a second. The war had just ended, alright? So, we had newspapers that were so excited and telling people, peace has come. Finally, the Germans stopped firing back at the Allies and they are done. Alright, so there's a ceasefire. Now, what is going to happen? We have people that have been shooting at each other for years, and all of a sudden we're done. What happens now? Do people get punished for the things that they've been doing? Do they just go back to normal and act like nothing happened? We're going to find out. All right, so on page 203, our title says Making Peace. President Wilson's goals. So that is our president, President Woodrow Wilson at the time, okay? So, it seemed as though the world had gone crazy with happiness. In the Allied nations, people filled the streets singing, shouting, and dancing. Cheers rose from the crowds, and people laughed and wept at the same time. Church bells rang, and many gave thanks to God. The long, terrible war was finally over. But peace could not be made in one day. The making of the peace treaty was a long process that took several months. President Wilson went to France to meet with the other Allied leaders. He had certain goals for the meetings. He had made a list of 14 points he wanted to see put in place. But the most important point was his plan for a League of Nations. The League of Nations would help keep peace in the future by talking through problems, not by fighting wars. But not all the leaders agreed with Wilson. They thought his idea for a League of Nations would never work. Some of them wanted to see Germany punished more harshly than Wilson did. Okay, so let's look at that picture down there. It says celebration at the White House at the end of World War I. All right, so you see all of the patriotic people waving those flags, so excited that finally the war had ended. Okay, turn the page. The Treaty of Versailles. After much talking and arguing, the leaders reached an agreement in June of 1919. The peace treaty was called the Treaty of Versailles. The treaty did include a League of Nations, but the treaty was harder on Germany than Wilson had wanted it to be. It blamed the war entirely on Germany. It took away Germany's land holdings overseas, so its other properties that it had. And Germany also lost some land in Europe. Germany had to pay France and Great Britain for their war costs. The huge sum was more than the country could afford. So, their war costs would be things like there were bombs dropped, right? So they had broken buildings and people had lost loved ones, so they had to pay for all of that, pay to rebuild the cities, pay for other damages. So there is no way that Germany was going to be able to pay that back for both Great Britain and France. It's a lot of money. All right, so let's look at this picture here. It says the Big Four were the top Allied leaders. Woodrow Wilson from the United States, David Lloyd George from Britain, Vittorio Orlando from Italy, and Georges Clemenceau from France. President Wilson urged Congress to sign the treaty. He did not like every part of the treaty, but he wanted the League of Nations badly enough to sign it anyway. However, Congress did not agree that the United States should join a League of Nations. Wilson fell out of favor with the American people for his strong views about the League. In the end, the United States never signed the treaty, and they never joined the League. Later, while Warren Harding was president, the United States worked out its own treaty with Germany. And I'll stop there for today.